There are moments in life that feel like just another day until they're not. Sometimes what looks ordinary on the calendar is actually extraordinary in eternity. March 27th is one of those days, not by coincidence, but by divine design. Maybe you've been feeling stuck lately, unseen, confused about your purpose, like you're going through the motions, waiting for something to shift. This message is for you, because March 27th isn't just a date, it's a divine appointment, a moment that could mark the beginning of your transformation, your calling, your breakthrough. You weren't created to drift. You weren't chosen to survive. You were chosen to rise. What happens on this day could define the course of your life, not because of the date itself, but because of the decision you're being called to make. Will you ignore the nudge, or will you step into the destiny that's been waiting for you all along? This is more than a warning, it's an awakening. You've been chosen. Now it's your move. Because when God marks a moment, he also marks a soul. And maybe, just maybe, that soul is you. You are not here by accident. Long before you took your first breath, before your heartbeat was heard, and even before your name was given, God knew you. He didn't just know you as a thought or an idea. He knew your purpose, your potential, and the role you would play in his divine story. Jeremiah 1:5 is not just a verse. It's a declaration of identity. It reminds us that our destiny was conceived in the mind of God before we ever existed in the flesh. You were set apart for something eternal. This means your background, limitations, and even your past mistakes cannot cancel what God has already written about your life. Many people wander through life searching for meaning, unsure of their value or direction. But when you understand that your life is a divine assignment, everything changes. Every challenge becomes preparation. Every delay becomes development. Every step, even the painful ones, become part of a bigger plan. You were created on purpose, for a purpose. Whether you feel ready or not, God has already placed within you what is needed to fulfill your assignment. Your job is not to question why you were chosen, but to trust the one who chose you. Step boldly into that truth today. Your destiny didn't begin at birth, it began in the heart of God, and he is faithful to complete what he started in you. In a world filled with noise and numbers, where people often feel unseen or forgotten, God reminds us of something beautiful. He knows your name. You are not just another face in the crowd or a statistic in the system. The creator of the universe has called you, personally, intentionally, and lovingly. Isaiah 43:1 is a divine whisper to every soul that feels lost or insignificant. It is heaven's way of saying, you matter. I see you. You belong to me. When God calls, he doesn't generalize. He doesn't just say, hey, you. He speaks your name because he knows every detail of your life, your heart, your dreams, your pain, and your potential. The calling of God is never accidental. It is always purposeful. When he called Moses, he said, Moses, Moses. When he called Samuel, he called him by name in the stillness of the night. When Jesus stood outside the tomb, he didn't say, come out, someone. He said, Lazarus, come out. And life returned. When heaven calls your name, it awakens something deep within you. It is not a call to religion, but to relationship. It is not about being part of a crowd, but being known by the King. Today, remember, the one who formed the stars has spoken your name. You are his. Walk boldly, for the voice that calls you by name walks with you every step of the way. God doesn't always give us the full picture. He gives us a promise. And with that promise comes an invitation. Trust me. When God called Abraham, he didn't hand him a roadmap. He said, go to the land I will show you. Genesis 12:1. No details, no guarantees, just faith. Stepping into the unknown is never easy. It challenges our comfort zones, our need for control, and our desire for clarity. But the truth is, growth doesn't happen in the familiar. Faith is not proven when everything is certain. It's proven when nothing makes sense, yet you still move forward. God often calls his people to unfamiliar places because that's where dependence on him grows deepest. Whether it's Abraham leaving his homeland, Moses returning to Egypt, or Peter stepping out of the boat, destiny always begins where certainty ends. When you follow God's call, you may not know where you're going, but you can trust who you're going with. He doesn't send you out alone. He walks beside you. His presence is your provision, and his voice is your compass. So don't be afraid of the unknown. What seems uncertain to you is already known to him. The unfamiliar is not a trap. It's a setup for something greater. The promise is not behind you. It's ahead. Take the step. Walk by faith. Trust the one who sees the end from the beginning. The journey may be unclear, but the destination is divine. When God calls, the journey that follows is rarely easy. Obedience isn't always convenient. It often costs us comfort, time, reputation, and sometimes even safety. But in every story of purpose, obedience is the turning point that unlocks destiny. Esther didn't choose comfort in the palace. She risked her life to stand before the king, knowing her obedience could mean death. Yet, through her courage, a nation was saved. David was anointed king, yet he spent years hiding in caves, refusing to take matters into his own hands. His obedience shaped his character long before he wore a crown. Joseph was given dreams from God, but he was betrayed, enslaved, and imprisoned before those dreams came true. Still, he chose faithfulness at every step. True obedience isn't about the outcome, it's about trust. It's choosing God's way even when it's the harder path. It's saying yes without knowing all the answers. And that kind of obedience carries weight. It shapes us, refines us, and positions us for divine purpose. God doesn't ask for perfection, he asks for surrender. And every time you obey his voice, even when it's difficult, you align yourself with his plan. The road may be steep, but it leads to promise. The burden may be heavy, but grace is greater. So when God speaks, follow, even when it costs you. Because on the other side of obedience is favor, purpose, and the fulfillment of what God alone can bring to pass. We often view the wilderness as a place of punishment or delay, but in God's kingdom, it is a place of preparation. Before Jesus began his public ministry, he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, where he fasted for 40 days and faced intense temptation. Matthew 4:1 through 11. It wasn't a detour, it was divine preparation. The wilderness strips away distractions. It silences the noise so you can hear God's voice more clearly. It's in the hidden, quiet, and lonely places that your faith is tested, your character is refined, and your strength is built. In the wilderness, you learn that God's presence is your sustenance, not the applause of people or the comforts of life. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before returning to Egypt as a deliverer. David was shaped in caves long before he sat on the throne. Joseph endured prison before he ruled in the palace. Each of them was chosen, but before the promise came the process. If you find yourself in a wilderness season, don't despise it. You're not forgotten. You're being formed. God is preparing you in the unseen so you can carry the weight of what's coming. The wilderness may feel empty, but it's full of purpose. Endure the preparation. Embrace the process, because when the time is right, God will bring you out stronger, wiser, and ready to walk fully in the calling he has placed on your life. When David was anointed by the prophet Samuel, he was still a young shepherd boy. The oil flowed, the calling was confirmed, but the crown didn't come right away. In fact, after that divine moment, David returned to the fields, to the sheep, to the shadows. He was chosen, but not yet crowned. This is a truth many of us struggle with. We hear God's promise, we feel his calling, and we expect the elevation to follow instantly. But God doesn't rush purpose. He builds it. And often there's a waiting season between anointing and appointing, between calling and crowning. David's journey included years of running from Saul, hiding in caves, and facing betrayal. But in that waiting, God was doing something deeper. He was building in David the heart of a shepherd, the endurance of a warrior, and the humility of a king. The delay wasn't a denial, it was preparation. If you feel called but overlooked, chosen but still waiting, don't lose heart. God has not forgotten you. He is shaping you for what He has prepared for you. Every moment in the hidden place is strengthening your foundation for what's coming. Don't despise the wait. The longer the preparation, the greater the purpose. The crown will come, but it must rest on a head that has been refined by process. You are chosen. Trust the timing. Let the wait build the weight of your calling. When God called Moses, He didn't send him to a safe place. He sent him to Pharaoh, the most powerful man on earth, a king who enslaved an entire nation. Moses didn't feel qualified. He doubted himself, questioned his ability to speak, and feared rejection. Yet God said, "I will be with you." Exodus 3:12. God still calls His people to confront the pharaohs of our time, systems of injustice, voices of oppression, powers that keep people bound. Your calling may not look like standing before a literal throne, but it may require you to speak truth in uncomfortable places, defend the voiceless, or stand firm against spiritual and societal chains. You were not chosen for comfort. You were chosen for impact. Moses wasn't sent alone. He was backed by the power of God, armed with divine authority, and accompanied by signs and wonders. And so are you. When God calls you to battle, He equips you with everything you need. Freedom often begins with one obedient voice. Your courage could be the key that unlocks someone else's deliverance. Whether in boardrooms, classrooms, online platforms, or everyday conversations, you may be the one God has positioned to say, "Let my people go." Don't fear the fight. The same God who stood with Moses stands with you. When you confront darkness with light, chains break, nations shift, and heaven moves. You are called to more than survival. You are called to set captives free. True courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. Esther knew the risk. Standing before the king without an invitation could mean death. Yet when the fate of her people hung in the balance, she chose to act. Her words echo through history. "If I perish, I perish." Esther 4:16. This kind of courage doesn't come from comfort. It comes from conviction. Esther understood that her position wasn't about luxury or ease. She was placed in the palace for such a time as this. Her moment of risk became a turning point for an entire nation. Every believer will face moments that demand bold faith, moments where staying silent feels safer, where blending in is easier, and where stepping up comes with a cost. But it's in those moments that destiny is defined. God often calls us to act when the outcome isn't guaranteed, but obedience is. The courage to speak truth, to defend the vulnerable, to take a stand. These decisions may carry risk, but they also carry the power to change lives. Your bold faith today could open the door for someone else's tomorrow. Generational impact begins with individual courage. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Like Esther, recognize your moment and step into it with faith. Because when you take a stand for God, He stands with you. And through your courage, heaven moves and history changes. When King Nebuchadnezzar threatened to throw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the blazing furnace, their response was fearless. "Our God is able to deliver us, but even if He does not, we will not bow." Daniel 3:17-18. They were thrown into the fire, but they weren't alone. A fourth figure appeared in the flames, one like the Son of God. This story isn't just about deliverance, it's about presence. God didn't prevent the fire, but He joined them in it. And when they walked out, not a hair was singed. There was no smell of smoke, only glory, only testimony. Many times we pray for God to remove the fire. But what if the fire is the very place where the miracle happens? What if it's where our faith is refined, our character is shaped, and God's power is revealed? The trials you face may feel intense, but take heart. You are not alone. The same God who stepped into the furnace steps into your situation. He doesn't promise to always keep you from the fire, but He promises that the fire won't consume you. Isaiah 43:2. When God brings you through, you won't come out defeated. You'll come out delivered. Not with scars, but with strength. Not with smoke, but with a story. So stand firm. Your fire is not your end, it's your setup. And when you walk out, the world will know who walked in with you. There are seasons in life when it feels like God is silent, promises are distant, and prayers go unanswered. But remember this: delay is not denial. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. God's timing is not our timing, but his timing is always perfect. Joseph had dreams of greatness. He saw himself lifted, honored, and used by God. But soon after, he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. From the pit to the prison, it seemed as if his dream was shattered. But in reality, God was preparing him for the palace. Every step of the journey, though painful, was part of a divine process. In hidden places, Joseph's character was being shaped. His leadership was being tested. His faith was being refined. What feels like silence in your life may actually be God working behind the scenes. Hidden preparation always precedes public elevation. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean God isn't doing it. Galatians 6:9 reminds us, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." Your season is coming. Keep trusting, keep walking, keep sowing in faith. The delay is not to discourage you, it's to develop you. And when the time is right, God will open doors no man can shut. Your dream is still alive. Trust the process and wait well. In today's fast-paced world, we often equate visibility with value. But in God's kingdom, hidden seasons are sacred. They are not signs of rejection, they are signs of preparation. Before God reveals you to the world, he often hides you to refine you. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness, far from Pharaoh's palace, tending sheep. It seemed like a detour, a step backward. But in that hidden place, God was shaping his heart, humbling his spirit, and preparing him for the monumental task of leading a nation to freedom. Even Jesus, the Son of God, lived 30 quiet years before stepping into public ministry. No spotlight, no miracles, no crowds, just obedience, learning, and waiting. And when the time came, his impact shook the world. God hides what he values. Like a jeweler protecting a precious gem, he places his chosen in places of obscurity, not to diminish them, but to prepare them for glory. The hidden season is where faith is forged, identity is clarified, and dependence on God is deepened. If you feel unseen, overlooked, or forgotten, remember this: you are not buried, you are being planted. And when the time is right, what God has cultivated in secret will bloom in power and purpose. Don't despise the hidden season, embrace it. It's not a punishment, it's protection. Trust that the one who hides you will also launch you, and when he does, it will be in his strength, for his glory, and in perfect time. Life is filled with battles. Some we see coming, and others take us by surprise. But no matter how fierce the trial, God reminds us that victory isn't for the strongest or the loudest. It belongs to the faithful. The ones who don't give up, the ones who keep showing up, the ones who trust God even when it hurts. Romans 8:18 says, "The sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that will be revealed in us." That means whatever you're going through right now, it's not the end of your story. The pain is real, but so is the promise. The struggle is intense, but so is the reward. God never said the road would be easy, but he did promise that it would be worth it. Every tear, every test, every trial is preparing you for something greater. Your faithfulness in the storm is positioning you for victory on the other side. 2 Timothy 2:12 reminds us, if we endure, we will also reign with him. Faith isn't just about believing, it's about enduring. Holding on when everything around you says, let go. Standing firm when others fall away. Trusting God's timing when the wait feels long, so don't quit. Keep the faith. Victory doesn't come to the perfect, it comes to the persistent. And when the final chapter is written, it will declare, "The faithful have overcome," because God never forgets those who remain true. If you've made it this far, it's not by accident. Something in your spirit knows. March 27th isn't just another date. It's a divine invitation, a moment of decision, a turning point. The question is, will you answer the call? If this message spoke to you, if you felt even a spark of confirmation in your heart, don't let it fade. Act on it. Pray, reflect, prepare. Because when God speaks, he doesn't speak without purpose. And now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and type, "I am ready for my calling." Let that be your declaration, your first step into something greater. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're building a community of awakened hearts, ready to walk boldly in their purpose. And I'd love for you to be part of that. Until next time, stay expectant, stay faithful, and remember, you were chosen for such a time as this. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next one.